Hey everybody, I was thinking today we should talk a little bit about idolatry, since it's like it's one of those things where organized religions have done everything from stoning to burning people at the stake to a whole manner of misery and ugliness to idolaters, people who follow idols. Um, in Judaism and in Christianity, it kind of goes back to Moses leaving Egypt and some of his people um, had an idol of a kind of a golden calf or a bull, something along those lines. Might have been left over from some paganistic religion they were following when they were captive in Egypt. But at any rate, under Moses, it was a sin. It was a terrible, terrible sin, because God had said, no false gods, no idols, that kind of thing. But what it turns out really to be, more than anything else, is organized religions that are designed to keep people under control, have some kind of a social doctrine, like the Catholic Church has kind of a dogmatic practice where they tell you these things you have to do and you do them, and in exchange for that you achieve salvation. It's all very organized, very word. There's holy books, there's scriptures, there's things you have to do in order to reach heaven. And one of the things you're not supposed to do is worship idols. So idols in and of themselves aren't a bad thing. The bad thing happens is when you take an idol, which is really a artistic impression of a deity with its characteristics, its it has to, it represents a divinity in a way that's symbolic, that's not attached necessarily to words, but more to that deeper aspect of you, the more of your nonverbal understanding. It's more visual, it's more spiritual than words could be. So you have this object, and oftentimes it's part person and part kind of an animistic head or something like this. And I think what that's really addressing is that there's an understanding that divinity is more than a man. Divinity is more than a nature. It's more than all these things. And it's an undefinable object. You really can't know the unmaterial, the non-material essence of the universe, the creation. The great mother who created it all is really non-material. So anything material doesn't come close to description. It can only point. So we have these idols, and we use them to make an understanding and a connection with our divinity. Organized churches see that as kind of a dangerous thing, because it's open to interpretation. Everybody looks at art differently. Everybody looks at a sculpture differently. Everybody takes away from it something internally agreeable to themselves. So an idol will give you something to ponder that's not part of the normal vernacular, not part of the normal words that we use every day. It's something that hits a different part of you. And that's hard to control, because everybody sees it in their own light. So if you're holding an image of an idol and you're looking at it, various feelings and thoughts and things come to you that may not come to me or to somebody else. So it's very personal, and because it's personal, it's very spiritual, it can open you up to your truer divinity, because the divinity that you have that's deep and real is not part of the construct of language or the mind games, the mind illusions that this world is made up of. And idols can help you look past the normal world and look more deep into a spiritual world. So that's why they're a little bit considered dangerous by organized, dogmatic, or social constructed religions. But in and of themselves, they're relatively harmless. The only time an idol becomes an issue is when you give it a power. If you make it a deity, you make it something more than what it is, more than a symbol, more than a finger pointing to the action of potential becoming manifest, the actions of the non-material growing and becoming manifest in the material, and then sinking back into the non-material. If you see it, you can give it power as an object, you're really creating a different type of language. So it puts you in the same bind as the written words are seeing life through the construct of words. But if you don't do that, if you just use it for what it is, a pointer, a guide, something to stimulate your personal evolution, then the idol doesn't really affect anything. It's not really idolatry if you don't turn it into a deity, if you just use it as a symbol. So anything that you can practice spiritually that avoids spoken words or written words, that is really, it has to be nonverbal. It has to be something that doesn't touch that part of your mind. Quieting exercises, prayer, not asking God for this and asking God for that, because when you do that, you're talking to a God that's been defined by language. It's a God of this earth, this world. It's not the true God of creation, the non-material creation, the one that, like somebody like Jesus comes from. Doesn't come from here and grow, comes from this other aspect, manifests here for a while and then goes back. In those teachings that he taught when he was manifest, really addressed your connection to your divine beginning, not to Yahweh, not to Moses, not to the Ten Commandments, not to any kind of a liturgy, anything that tells you what to do as a social construct. What Moses was talking about in Leviticus and those kind of things is, how can I move this multiple tribes of people out of Egypt through the desert and let them awaken into a country and let them get empowered and become one of the great powers at the time. But what he was doing was controlling social constructs so that people knew how to act, so they didn't really hurt each other. And those things are really important to do. Everybody has to follow ethics, and you have to follow right and wrong, and you have to do those kind of things. But that's not spirituality. That's a social construct to help people get along with each other. What you have to do beyond that is rekindle your connection to divinity. And that's what this other covenant is about, when Jesus manifests as the God manifest in here. So you have somebody from the non-material realm of oneness coming and putting themselves here and teaching you how to relate to that part of yourself and become as one with one. And if you can do that, you can finally go home. If you can't do that, you recycle over and over and over and over until you do, which is fine. I mean, you can live life after life after life. It doesn't really, there's no time limit. You don't have to do anything. But if you want to, the only way to accomplish that is to abandon the illusionary world of construct, which happens to be mostly verbal now with us, mostly words. Almost everything you see, you attach a word and definition to. And in that, you put the parameters on it of what that object is and how that should perform. And you do that to your personality, you do that with your friends, you do that with everything in this kind of world. It's defined and has expectations on it. And anything that acts outside of those expectations is seen as sort of a deviance to what is normal. But people like Buddha, who were men, people who woke up, more or less, which is kind of what Buddhism really is talking about, is to wake up to the non-material world, to wake up to the non-illusionary world that we created with our mind and our constructs, and to sit quietly and allow the breath of the universe to reignite you so you can operate outside of those things. And Buddha called it a way of ending suffering, because suffering is operating in that other world of dualism. This is this and this is this, hot, cold, up, down, good, bad, in, out, here, there, now, and before and after and future. All those kind of things that the mind plays with. When you quiet down and sit in meditation, all those definitions begin to melt away, all the way down to a point. And then when you see that point, the first thing you do as a human being is define it. And then that throws you really far away again. And then you have to kind of figure out how to approach that point without defining it, without turning that last final point into another idol that you can worship and say, I've got it, I've got it, I've got it. The moment you think you have a thing, it goes away because it's not a thing. It's a no thing. The whole process is not to do nothing, it's to do no thing, which is a whole different definition. Doing nothing implies you just kind of do nothing. Where if you're doing no thing, you're not defining anything. You're not going that ceases to be, and you become still. And when you become still, the universe unfolds before you, and you see that you're it. It's not out there. God isn't out. Nothing's out, and nothing's truly in. But it's easier to see if you look inward than it is outward because of all the definition. But once you can master that, which is that's a big thing. That's not something like, I can do that this weekend. That's a commitment to viewing life from a different perspective and trusting it. And trusting it enough to say like, well, maybe I shouldn't ask God for stuff in a way where I say, please God, I've been good, let me have this or let me have that. Maybe that approach actually entangles you more in an illusion. That's another form of idolatry, actually, is to put this idea of God as this being who's helping you and who you have to either earn his respect or do what he says, be a good boy, follow this, follow that. When in truth, you're it. There's no father to ask. There's this universal oneness, the non-material universe that's always moving, always creating, always manifesting and unmanifesting. And this is what you are. You just happen to be this moment of manifestation. When you let go of that, you realize you're part of this whole thing. And you can begin to speak directly to the God that is within you and without you in a way that's just direct. Jesus said, your Father knows what you need before you ask. And that was, people interpreted that to be, ask your Father in heaven and he'll help you. But in reality, what that means, if you take it on a deeper level, is that you are a Trinity. You are the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. You are potential. You are manifestation. You are abundance, and you are decrease. And then you're abundance, and then you decrease. And it goes back and forth. And that the thing in the Holy Spirit, which I guess Jesus says the only thing that God won't forgive you of if you ignore, is because that's really the only thing that really actually is. Because that Holy Spirit is non-material, manifesting to material and going back. It's that flow that puts us into the oneness. But it's a big ego thing. It's a lot to let go of. To realize you're part of this massive, huge thing, and that mostly everything you see around you is a definition. And it's not always real. Your mind fills things in all the time. It's what you see as reality is really your mind taking in what it has to do and defining it and putting it into words and storing it, and then filling in the rest with whatever it remembers it should be. When you look outside and see the trees and you look back in, your brain just said trees and it creates it and puts it in. It's not real in the sense of the real tree that you go and touch is perception. And perception is altered by your definitions inside yourself. All those things, everything you see and feel and taste and touch is all illusionary on a certain level. It's a manifestation of the great oneness. And it sounds like sort of like psychobabble when you hear it. But if you hear it in a way that you don't judge and you don't have an expectation of it meaning anything, it's just me babbling on, and let some of it soak in and take from it what is of value to you. It may help you in your process if you're on that road for spiritual development. If you're not, that's all right, throw it away. But if it's something that you intend to pursue, or pursue is a bad word, something you intend to allow to manifest in you by doing no thing, not nothing, but no thing, then you should reach out. Let me know how it's going. If I could be any kind of help, I would. It's important, especially now, but it's very, very important to do this. And if you don't mind, I would like you to, if you're got all the way to the end of this thing, if you could like it and click the like and maybe subscribe. You can visit us on YouTube, on TikTok, on a blog site, on YouTube. There's a number of places you can reach us. And I appreciate it. I really appreciate your time. All right, so be well, and I'll talk to you again soon.